All right, guys, we are reacting to Ryan Baker's True Crime Stories, Volume 1, number one on the bestsellers list, man. Let's check it out, and I'm gonna come back with my reaction. Let's see what's going on with these crazy crackers. I'm messing with you. I didn't mean to say that, but it is a lot of crazy white people though. But anyway, let's go ahead and dig into it, guys. Hit the thumbs up button, and let's check this. Let's check it out. Let me hit play.
Chapter 12. Joe Metheny.
Joe Metheny.
The huge frame of Joe Metheny sat behind his roadside barbecue stand as he waited for customers to come by. At 450 pounds, Metheny was surprisingly quick as he rose up to his feet to greet an approaching customer. The customer ordered a pork barbecue sandwich. Taking a bite of the sandwich, the customer nodded approvingly and walked back to his car. Looking at his Tupperware storage containers, he saw that he was running low on what he referred to as his special meat.
Oh, Lord.
An evil grin appeared on his face when he realized that he would have to replenish his supply.
Jesus.
Metheny had a secret recipe to make his barbecue sandwiches, for it contained an ingredient that his customers were unaware of. The ingredient blended perfectly with beef or pork. That evening, Metheny closed up his stand and drove back to his trailer.
Jesus.
Upon arriving home, he grabbed his axe and took off in his car.
Oh, Lord.
He was off to get more of his special meat. What his customers did not know was the barbecue they were eating contained human flesh. It all started in July 1994. Metheny, a truck driver, had returned home after a long trip on the road. He and his wife lived in the slums of South Baltimore. He moved to South Baltimore after returning from a brief stint in the military service, where he started using heroin. When he arrived at his apartment, he encountered an event that would bring him to the breaking point. His wife and his 6-year-old son were gone. That they were missing was traumatic for him, but it was not surprising. His wife had a drug problem and often hung out with other drug users, spending a lot of time on the streets. Finding himself in an empty apartment sent him into a deep-seated rage. Being alone was a nemesis that followed him throughout his life. Metheny was born in 1955 in West Virginia. His parents and 5 siblings lived in poverty. A laborer, his father was an alcoholic and neglected his family's needs. The family later moved to Essex, an unincorporated community in Baltimore, Maryland. His father was killed in a car crash when Metheny was 6. To take care of her children, his mother had to work multiple jobs. In 1975, his oldest brother committed suicide. All these experiences left Metheny feeling vulnerable and alone. Perhaps that is why he became involved with heroin in the service. Since he'd left the service, Metheny had no contact with his mother. He was trying to escape the ghosts of his past, the feeling of vulnerability and loneliness. But his past caught up with him. He found himself alone once again. He was not just alone, his son had been taken from him. In 1994, 6 months after discovering that his wife and son had left him, Metheny found out the details of what happened to them. His wife had found a boyfriend and moved in with him. Her new boyfriend was also heavily involved in drugs. Further, his wife had been arrested for a drug offense. Since Metheny had a criminal record of assault, Child Protective Services had taken custody of the son and placed him in foster care.
Wow.
The rage he felt when he discovered this information sent his rage through the roof. Metheny grabbed his axe and stormed out of his apartment. He was going to get even with those who robbed him of his son, and he had a hunch of where he could find them. He got in his car and drove off. Homeless people, prostitutes, and drug addicts frequently hung out under the bridge that crossed the Patapsco River. Metheny pulled up to the entrance of the bridge, got out of his car, and walked down the hillside toward the bottom of the bridge. When he got there, he saw 2 homeless men. One of them was lying on an old mattress. His wife was nowhere in sight. He roughed up the 2 homeless men and asked for information as to where his wife was. The 2 men explained to Metheny that they did not know his wife and pleaded for him to leave them alone. In his anger, Metheny swung his axe at the men. Being 6 feet tall and 450 pounds, the power behind his swings was enormous. The first man was killed instantly and collapsed to the ground. The second man was severely wounded. Metheny repeatedly swung his axe until the second man was dead.
Damn.
Chopping them to pieces, he threw their remains in the river. There was something about killing those two men that awakened something in him. For the first time in his life, he felt powerful. He felt the desire for a repeat performance. He wanted to kill again. The anger he held for his wife defined for him who his next targets would be. They would be women, especially those who were drug users or prostitutes.
Oh, man.
In his mind, they were like his wife. They were worthless. For him, killing would be his revenge. A few nights later, Metheny went back to the bridge. He came across a prostitute who was doing drugs. He told her he wanted sex and invited her under the bridge. Once there, he strangled and beat her, after which he disposed of her body in the river. A few hours later, he did the same with another prostitute. However, he encountered a problem after killing the second prostitute. When he was about to dump her body in the river, he saw a black man fishing. The man had witnessed the murder. Metheny grabbed an iron pipe and attacked the fisherman, killing him.
No.
He dumped both bodies in the river.
Jesus.
He had killed 3 people in one night and enjoyed it. Though he was scared about being caught, the knowledge he killed them gave him a grotesque sense of pride. Fortunately for him, the bodies would never be found. He had committed the perfect crime. However, he did not have the same luck with his first 2 murders. Around 3 weeks after the killings of the 2 homeless men, the Baltimore police arrested him for the killings. He was jailed in Baltimore City Jail and put on trial. 1 week into his trial, the murder charges against him were dismissed due to lack of evidence.
Wow.
In 1995, Metheny walked out of jail a free man. However, he was homeless and without a job. The company he worked for, Joe Stein & Son Pallet Company, had let him go while he was incarcerated. He went back to his employer, begging them to take him back. His employer eventually gave in to his persuasion and rehired him. His new position would be as a forklift driver for $7 an hour. His employer also let him stay in an abandoned trailer on company grounds. In the same year his double murder case was dismissed, Metheny came across 45-year-old Kathy Ann Magaziner, a prostitute. Just looking at her sickened him. Like his wife, he saw her as being a useless piece of trash. He told her he was interested in her services and brought her to his trailer. As soon as they entered the trailer, he unleashed a brutal beating on her.
Jesus.
Magaziner screamed, which caused him to give out a cruel laugh. He knew there was no one around to hear her screaming. Badly beaten and barely conscious, he grabbed an extension cord and strangled her. He then stabbed her repeatedly, even though she was dead already. He dragged her body out of the trailer and buried her in a shallow grave he had dug near his trailer.
This is crazy.
A few months later, he dug her up, decapitated her, and had sex with her skull.
Oh my God.
In 1996, 26-year-old Kimberly Lynn Spicer met the same fate as Magaziner. Like Magaziner, she was also a prostitute lured into Metheny's trailer. She was also beaten, strangled, and stabbed.
Crazy, man.
Unlike Magaziner, he did not decapitate her. Metheny wanted to bury her as well, but had difficulty digging the grave. He asked a friend to assist him. His friend refused to help him, so Metheny hid her body under a neighboring trailer. What Metheny did not realize was that his friend had called the police. The police never followed up with him.
What?
There was one other thing that Metheny did to the 2 prostitutes, and he had done this before he disposed of their bodies. He carved off pieces of their flesh and placed them in Tupperware containers, which he froze. Later that same year, Metheny noticed that he was running low again on his special meat for his open pit barbecue stand. That night, he managed to lure another prostitute, Rita Kemper to his trailer. Like the previous prostitutes, Metheny started off by giving her a savage beating.
Jesus.
However, that is when all similarity ends. When he was not looking, Kemper ran out of the trailer, scaled a fence, and made her way to a payphone to call the police.
Oh, she got away.
When the police arrived at Metheny's trailer, he was waiting for them. He had
Wow.
no desire to run. He also confessed to his crime against Kemper. During interrogation, Metheny claimed he had killed 10 people. Authorities could not locate evidence to charge him with the murders he claimed to have committed, except one. They found enough evidence to charge him with the death of 28-year-old Tori Lynn Ingracia. During the trial, Metheny admitted to all charges against him and showed no remorse. In fact, he enjoyed shocking the jury and the families of the victims by proudly telling the details of his crimes and using obscene language when referring to his victims. Metheny begged jurors to give him the death penalty. He was indicted on 3 counts of murder for the deaths of Kimberly Spicer, Toni Lynn Ingracia, and Catherine Magaziner. When the jury reached their verdict, they found him guilty on all counts, and he was given the death penalty in 1998. During the penalty stage of his trial, the court overthrew the death sentence for Magaziner.
Wow.
His final sentence was 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. In 2017, 62-year-old Metheny was found dead in his cell at Western Correctional Institute.
How did he die? They didn't ever say how he passed away. I wonder how he died. I'm gonna have to look that up later on. Maybe I'll do a part 2 on this video. I'm interested in how did he pass. 62. I mean, that's, so, you know, you're entering into senior citizen area when you hit 62, but you're not old. You're just at the beginning stages of it, so that's kind of young. I wonder did he kill himself or did he OD on something? Was he sick? You know, he was in there for a while, so over 15 years or whatever. Anyway, what do y'all think about this story, man? Leave a comment and let me know what y'all think, and subscribe to Charles Arnaz World. Y'all take care.